graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
You know why you can't stop me? Because I'm not playing a game. For you, it's winning and losing. For me, it's life and death. That's how I win. That's where you have to go. No more thought, no more feeling. Kill or be killed. Kill or be killed, little man. Get back to win this game, man, before you got to be too cool. Stop acting like you're not ashamed right now. Follow that shame to the fear. Follow that fear to the rage. Put that rage up your ass, turkey. There's only two ways off this table. Kill or be killed. Say it. Kill or be killed. I said say it, Bumble.
Kill or be killed.
Kill!
Kill!
Your podcast won't fail.
It's just a coincidence that you were talking about the Jack and Triumph show and I'm here. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Hey man, this is Kevin Smith, guy who makes all those unlistenable podcasts over at smodcast.com, and you're listening to the Two Strangers, One Podcast. This is podcasting.
You're listening to Two Strangers, One Podcast. Subscribe to us on iTunes or on the Stitcher app for Android devices. Please visit twostrangersonepodcast.net. Now, here's Chris Colon and Paul Pasquillo.
Hello and welcome to Two Strangers, One Podcast. I'm Chris, and I am here all alone. And no, it is not Paul's fault. As a matter of fact, right when we were getting ready to record this, it is after the 6-year anniversary that Paul has been with the show, almost 171 episodes by my count. And unfortunately, I was trying out some new equipment the last time we were recording, and I think something got bumped. My microphone got shut off, and unfortunately, nothing got recorded. So I was trying to see, I was going over to my hard drive the past couple of days, trying to see maybe if the file was somewhere, to no avail. It's been a couple of days since I recorded this episode with Paul. I still have my notes, so I'm going to basically end up repeating everything I just said, because I didn't want to go too long without an episode being put out, with it being the end of the summer. And I'm planning to go down to New York City with my daughter, sort of a late birthday present. Just didn't want to leave you guys hanging for far too long. I know we go way too long in between episodes, and Paul wasn't available to record tonight, so I said, fuck it, let me just get this out of the way. One less thing to worry about. So let's talk about things in current events, things that have been happening since the last episode. Now, of course, there have been more than just the two that I'm going to mention, but the two mass shootings that happened within 24 hours of each other. One was down in El Paso, Texas, where a guy drove out of his way to go to El Paso strictly because it was close enough to the border and had every intention of killing people of Mexican descent. And, it's really sad that as a reaction to these shootings, Walmart says they're not going to sell anymore, they're not going to advertise violent video games in their ads or any on the TV spots or anything like that. But ironically enough, it was a Walmart of which the guy went into. And, with, I believe in that part of Texas being an open carry. I don't know if I forgive my ignorance if I don't know if all of Texas is an open carry state, but in that particular case, it was an open carry. So in a place where there is open carry and there are guys who walk around, compensating, for their small penises by carrying around an AR-15 in case shit pops off, you would think if there was a quote unquote good guy with a gun, this kid would have been stopped in the Walmart, and, he took a bunch of people with him, and, and it just goes to show, and I had seen a couple of screen grabs of him walking into the store, into the Walmart, and he came in holding the gun. It wasn't like even walking the store with, even pretending that he was an average customer that just happens to have a fucking assault rifle, strapped to his back. And so he just came in, pardon the phrase, guns a-blazing, took a lot of people with him. And, I do notice that there are a lot of people that like how he was taken into custody, comparing it to when other, people have been taken into custody. I don't want to make it a racial thing, but it's usually, how come, blacks, like a Michael Brown gets choked to death, but this guy gets taken into custody. I would like to see the footage of the police apprehending him because, was he struggling? Was he resisting arrest? Because, when I see the couple of photos that I did see of him being arrested, it didn't look like he was struggling or anything like that. And I do get what people are saying, like, you know, the cops feel more threatened by a person of color than they do of, you know, a white guy with a fucking assault rifle. I haven't even checked, to be honest with you, but I would like to see the footage of that arrest. And don't worry, folks. We're going to get a lot more lighter and nerdier stuff. We just covering all the big news. Because I'd like to think of this podcast as a bit of a time capsule. You know, things that are sort of big right now. So, you know, somewhere down the line, you know, I could go back and listen to the episodes. Oh, yeah, I remember, you know, end of the summer 2019, you know, what was the big stories going on then? So, let me see. Then there was the Jeffrey Epstein suicide in MCC. And for those who follow me on Facebook, you know, I was a correction officer for 10 years. And I have a lot to say about this. Well, one, there was an article that came out, and I forget exactly. I want to say it was the New York Times, but it was talking about how the facility itself had about 750 inmates to 18 guards. And I'm pretty sure those are the numbers that they said in the article, which, you know, you break out your calculator, averages out to about 41 inmates per officer, which I think is fucking cute, because when I was a correction officer, you know, I had worked at a max, you know, Sing Sing. That's the big one everyone knows. That's the one that, you know, has a history. You know, we used to house old Sparky, the electric chair. And when I worked Sing Sing on a gallery, now once again, I'm thinking about numbers that were back in 2000, late 99, early 2000. So the numbers might have changed since the last time I worked there. But on an average gallery, you had 180 inmates supervised by 2 officers. So when I used to work the galleries, that means me and another officer were in charge of 180 inmates, 90 apiece. So there, once again, to compare that to the MCC numbers, MCC was the facility that was holding Jeffrey Epstein. So now, you know, break out your calculators, that comes out to about 90 inmates an officer. And then I had worked at a medium security facility in Staten Island called Arthur Kill, which is now closed, but they film episodes of Orange is the New Black there. When I was working there were 60 inmates to a unit. So once again, you know, I laugh at those numbers when they say, you know, 40 inmates to an officer. I was like, I wish I had 40 inmates to an officer, which by the third facility I worked at, Bayview, that was about 40 inmates to an officer. So that was close. And that was a women's medium. So, you know, it shows you how intense things are, at MCC. And not that I'm shitting on federal officers. I just, you know, look at those numbers. Just keep in mind that, you know, one officer is in charge of 40 inmates. Now, I believe turns out that these particular officers were sleeping. They were supposed to be doing suicide watch. Their policies were a little different than the policies than when I was working in corrections, because they said, according to the article, they had to check up on Jeffrey Epstein every half an hour, when with the state, with New York State. And once again, keep in mind, I haven't worked for the state in about 10 years, so policies may have changed since then. But I'm giving you the most accurate advice, the most accurate account to the best of my knowledge, and I'm not using hyperbole or anything like that. Excuse me. When you were working something like suicide watch, it was every 15 minutes you would check up on the inmate and make a log entry about it. Now, that being said, of course, you know, they don't want you to work like clockwork. They don't want you to come every single 15 minutes, because then that just gives the inmate the illusion that, oh, I have 15 minutes to kill myself in between the next round. So you're supposed to vary it up a bit. But just because you're on suicide watch, and I kind of want to educate people on that, just because you're on suicide watch does not necessarily mean that an officer is sitting outside your cell babysitting you, like if this is fucking Silence of the Lambs. It doesn't work like that. Usually, I mean, you may be in a facility where things are kind of crazy. Well, you may have 2 suicide watches, you know, or whatever. They may have the officer doing other things other than doing suicide watch. Now, let's use those numbers that the New York Times article said about 17 or 18 officers to 17 officers to 750 inmates. Imagine if you took one officer away from that whole team and had them sit one-on-one with Jeffrey Epstein. And, you know, now you're adding the numbers where now the officers are responsible for 60 inmates and so on and so forth. So, I just want to let you know that, you know, suicide watch or at least with MCC or at least with New York State, it wasn't like how it is in the movies. It's not like there's an officer sitting outside your cell with their chair posted there. Now, if the depictions, if I understand correct, and once again, I'm not defending this guy, I'm not defending the prisons, I'm just stating facts here. You draw your own fucking conclusion. Now, with, if Jeffrey Epstein, now there is another thing more stricter than suicide watch called one-on-one. And that is where an officer will sit outside your cell, isn't going anywhere. Once again, they make log entries every 15 minutes. Now, one-on-one is a very, very, delicate situation. It usually means you're screaming at the top of your lungs that you're going to kill yourself. All right. Sorry about that. Got a little delayed. It's those couple of weeks after camp, but before school starts. So you got the kids sitting around the house. So, she was asking me some questions. Back to what I was saying. There is a thing in prison called one-on-one, where an officer will sit outside your cell and watch you for 8 hours straight. But for you to get one-on-one, you have to be screaming at the top of your lungs that you're going to kill yourself. You have to fucking, grab some sort of, object and try to, in the sight of an officer or the sight of the nurse, try to slit your wrists and stuff like that. You have to have hesitation marks. That being said, one-on-one is such a rare thing that, it's one of those things where it has to be an extreme situation. And then you would also use one-on-one if someone was saying they were going to escape or something like that. I've been on a one-on-one where the guy was, obviously crazy. He took advantage, not when I was working, but he took advantage of when an officer wasn't paying attention before, where he took his paper gown, because they do give you a paper gown, and it looks similar to the gown that you would wear in the hospital, but literally made out of like tissue paper, or not tissue paper, but something that you're not going to be able to do anything with. And like he took his paper gown and flushed it down the toilet. He was trying his best to clog the toilet. The inmate's excuse was saying that he was trying to keep demons from coming up out of the toilet. So stuff like that will get you a one-on-one. If my recollection or all the articles that I've been reading so far, yes, obviously he was depressed. They said he was giving money to other inmates. This maybe could have been protection. He was, this guy had ridiculous amounts of money. He had his, lawyers, sitting out. He had basically lawyers visits for 12 hours a day. And I think that's probably the max of hours you can get towards, legally for a lawyer's hours. And again, what are you not going to accomplish in 12 hours? But it was his right, and he was exploiting that right by sitting with his, lawyers for 12 hours a day. Now, mind you, a team of lawyers. So imagine a guy of this high caliber, high paid lawyer sitting in a jail for 12 hours a day, more than one officer. More than one lawyer. So this guy was probably spending ridiculous amounts of money towards the end before he passed away. And once again, I'm not giving any kind of conspiracy theory, whether he killed himself or not. Hopefully he did just kill himself because he's a fucking piece of shit. Obviously there's the big theories that, maybe he had something on Clinton, maybe he had something on Trump or on countless other billionaires, and, something, holding sensitive material of that nature, can buy you entrance into a federal facility, have someone whack you. And once again, I'm not supporting any of those conspiracies. I'm just speaking the truth when it comes to Suicide Watch and trying to debunk what people think about Suicide Watch. It doesn't necessarily mean an officer sitting outside your cell. So obviously he was despondent. Of course he's despondent. He's a millionaire sitting in jail. Of course he's going to be bent out of shape. But unless he was screaming at the top of the lungs on how he's going to kill himself, you're not necessarily going to get a one-on-one. You're going to get a suicide watch. And that brings me to another thing about how facilities are understaffed. They said the officers that were supposed to be watching him that night, fell asleep, and then they falsified their log entries. And of course, yes, these guys, it was dereliction of duty. And I'm pretty sure in a high profile case like this, they're going to be made an example of. Now, that being said, prisons are dangerously understaffed. They try to do the most with what they can. And once again, when I worked in Sing Sing, it would be the end of the shift. Now, I used to work the 3 to 11 shift. So it would be the end of the shift, and all the officers went to the locker room, got changed in their civilian clothes, getting ready to leave. And then the person at the front door, it's a fucking prison, who controlled the gate, if they needed people to work overtime, you were locked in. You're an inmate. You're locked in just like the fucking inmates. And they would say, we need, quote unquote, volunteers to work overtime, and no one's going to go home until we find someone. Now you could imagine, and especially someone like myself who was what we would call a new jack or a rookie, or anybody, a new guy on the job, you would feel the pressure from your fellow officers. They're like, I'm not staying here. Let the new jacks. The new jack was our version of rookie. Let the new jacks do it. So you could imagine the peer pressure of thinking that you're about to go home, and then everyone's locked in and no one's going to go home until somebody volunteers. So, you would volunteer. And when I say volunteer, you obviously weren't volunteering because the whole fucking shift was locked into the fucking prison. The person controlling the door was given orders by the fucking supervisor not to let anyone leave until we had quote unquote volunteers. Now, you could imagine that imagine working 8-hour shift, a stressful shift. You're dealing with fucking inmates all day that are stressing you the fuck out. You're dealing with hustlers. You're dealing with killers. You're dealing with murderers, rapists. Imagine, once again, 180 inmates to 2 officers on a usual gallery on A block. Now imagine that. Imagine those 90 inmates that you're responsible for, 90 guys trying to get over on you for 8 hours in a day. Imagine that mental fatigue, other than physical fatigue, not to mention that the jails don't have any kind of, obviously it's a jail, doesn't have air conditioning. But once again, you're in with the fucking inmates. If they're suffering, you're fucking suffering, and you're forced to wear a uniform. You're forced to wear a uniform that needs to be kept to a certain standard. Well, yes, inmates wear uniforms also, but, it's not like it has to be, pressed and cut and it doesn't have to be presentable. As long as they don't have shit on their fucking uniforms, it's okay with us. We did have an inspection every day, and that's carrying a belt with equipment, carrying with cuffs, with a radio, with a baton, things of that nature. So if it's 90 degrees and you're in this fucking hot, steaming fucking box, and you have heavy polyester uniform on, it's stressed out. Now imagine at the end of those 8 hours and you think you're going to go home, and they lock the doors and they say, you can't go home. You have to work overtime. And then you're peer pressured and you work your overtime. And then, now the next day, now you have to work overtime again, or something to that effect. My point being is that officers are also overworked. And if those guys fell asleep, and don't get me wrong, it's dereliction of their duty, I'm pretty sure, in a facility like that, and I worked in prisons where, I worked the night shift, and, I used to work a lot of overtime because I had to fucking pay my mortgage, where, the supervisor would say, hey, look, if you feel like you're going to go to sleep, give me a call. You can walk around, you can go to the supervisor's office, get a fucking cup of coffee, or whatever the case may be, go to the vending machine, get a Mountain Dew, get something that will get you back up and running. But, unfortunately, we make bad mistakes. It's the summertime. The heat gets to you. You feel like you're sitting down. You kind of, you close your eyes for a second and then you're out. And once again, I'm not defending their actions, but I do sympathize because I've been there. And once again, take all the conspiracy theories you like. That's just the fucking long and short of it. I'm giving you the best fucking straight up advice I can give. I'm not using any kind of exaggeration. All right. So let's get away from that shit. Let me see. On our YouTube page, I had posted a funny video. I use this app called Smule, which is a karaoke app, for the lack of a better term. And there's this guy. His name is his screen name is Vandermast, and he does. He likes to do songs and do them in funny ways. He did a version of "Say Something" by Real Big World and Christina Aguilera. And how the app works is that it breaks a song in half, where you and another person can sing, where they sing half, you sing the other half, and it's sort of like doing a duet. He did Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I did Sylvester Stallone. And the funny thing is, how it works is, the first person does their half, and they just put it out there, and whatever happens to the other half is up to whoever else decides to join in on the song. So he put out his Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I thought it would be funny if I did Sylvester Stallone. I really liked the way it came out. Once again, he already did his half. My half was sort of improving and joining his half. So, you could go on Two Strangers. You go on YouTube.com, look for Two Strangers One Podcast, Arnold and Sly Singh say something. I found these old, if you remember Camp Chaos, those old Flash videos from the very early parts of the internet where it's like, money good, Napster bad, the goofing on Metallica. And, they did a bunch of other videos, but their style was they had a very distinct, exaggerated style. So I took old cartoons from Camp Chaos where they actually had a cartoon where Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone met, and I kind of animated it in the best way you can say it. It makes it look they're singing along with the music. It's not great, but I think it's cute enough, and it sends, it gets the message across. So I think it's fucking hilarious. Please share and like it with your friends. All right, let's see what else we got. All right, there is a hashtag boycott CVS. Which is about, I guess CVS has been known to donate to the Trump administration. So once again, I know we get political on the show, and I did spend a lot of time just talking about Jeffrey Epstein. But once again, that really wasn't a political talk. That was just more of being like a correction officer talk. So there is a boycott CVS thing where, these pharmacies, I had worked, and I think I'd let that be known after I got fired. I worked at Rite Aid for a bunch of years, and, these pharmacies are, they have the pharmacies in the back like a Rite Aid or a CVS or Walgreens, and then they kind of have the front end of the store, which is more like a convenience store prices. And, they love the suburban housewives. They love people who are loose with their money, I guess would be the best way to put it. So, that's why, there's these reward cards, and you get the fucking receipt that's 30 feet long, because, they're looking for dummies. Let's just be real here. It should be you go to the pharmacy, you get your fucking, you get whatever drugs you need. And I'm not going to get into that story, but, you get the drugs you need and you go home. You don't need all this extra shit. They sell you a lot of stuff, and then around the holidays, like right now, they're putting out all their Halloween stuff, and there's all this like made in China, made in Taiwan crap that, that they sell. And I love it how like it's like full price, right now. And if you're really excited, you'll buy it at full price, because there are people who, if I had the money, and I know I'm talking shit about them, but if I had the money, yes, I would probably be buying Halloween decorations now. But as they get closer to the holiday, then it becomes half price, and a quarter price. And so, buy one, get one free and stuff like that. So, they have, I totally regret the days and days and days I spent stocking fucking shelves with utter bullshit at these quote unquote pharmacies. And once again, the pharmacy part is fine. It's the front end, convenience store, go to a fucking, there aren't Rite Aids anymore, or they all been bought up by Walgreens. But you go to one of those places and try to buy a snack or something like that, where you're paying like $4 for a bag of chips that you could probably get at the other store for $1 and stuff like that. And so, of course, yes, I'm a little bitter about that. And CVS was our competitor when I worked for Rite Aid. But, if you're not a Trump supporter, you may want to boycott CVS because they donate to his administration. When we were getting ready to record the original episode with Paul, they had just broken out this thing where it was a petition to change the name of the street where Trump Tower is in New York City to, Barack Obama Way. So if anyone was writing to Trump Tower, it would be to Trump Tower, 725 Barack Obama Way in New York, which I thought would have been hilarious. So that's all the front end part of the show, sort of the personal stuff. And let me see, since the last time we were recorded, if there's anything new on my timeline that would be worth discussing. People who like to do, and I'm getting sick and tired of that, and I wish people would stop sharing videos of people who do something charitable. They give money to a homeless person, or they'll arrange something nice for a homeless person, but then they're filming it, and they put it, they put sad music to it and stuff like that. And it's like, if you're the type of person where you do shit like that, just you're doing it for the attention. It's obviously and then like someone responded like, oh, but they're doing it to bring they're bringing attention to the cause. No, they're not. If you want to bring attention to the cause, you can spend just the same amount of time making the same another video talking about the situation, talking about how people can help, instead of basically showing the world how fucking wonderful you are. Let me see. Oh, and this is for I guess you want to use that for the nerdy news, and which we'll get to in just a minute. But since we've recorded, Kevin Smith, everyone knows on this show, I love Kevin Smith, and Mark Bernardin, his co-host for Batman Beyond, the podcast, which I love. And Mark Bernardin's written for like the TV show Alphas on Sci-Fi, Hulu's Castle Rock. They're doing an upcoming Treadstone, which is based in the Jason Bourne universe. I'm trying to think of what else. He's written for the Hollywood Reporter. He did a comic called Genius. He's written like X-Men issues. He's a comic book writer, and he's a talented writer. He's a funny fucking guy. If you ever would listen to the Batman Beyond podcast, Fat Man Beyond, excuse me. So Mark Bernardin and Kevin Smith are now through Netflix, and I don't want to use the word reboot because they're rebooting He-Man, but it's supposed to be a continuation of the 80s series, which is weird because Netflix has She-Ra, and you would think automatically that they would maybe use that established universe and then kind of cross over He-Man that way. The same way in the original He-Man, you know, they introduced She-Ra and then they kind of crossed over that. And like, I remember, what was it? The sword, the power of the sword or some shit like that. Like there was a He-Man She-Ra movie that I have clear memories going to see. I said that I don't remember the name of the movie. But I do remember that there was a He-Man She-Ra movie that, and of course, like most movies in the 80s, you know, yes, of course it was made to sell toys, but you would go, you know, after a while, the movie was then split into like 4 episodes. So like, you know, like, yeah, you went to go see it in the movies, but if you just waited long enough, they would give it on TV, just chopped up into 4 episodes. And it's funny, like you're watching the movie and then like you see it go to black where you know it's such an obvious commercial break. But yeah, Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin are doing a continuation of the He-Man series. And it's very weird because as much as I love Kevin Smith, you know, He-Man is sort of a little more action based and stuff like that. You know, people are wondering, you know, is it going to be, you know, adult humor? I mean, seeing that, you know, the original audience for He-Man has kind of grown up, sort of like, and it's funny, I'll get into more nerdy news now. Sort of like the way, right now they just released on Netflix, Rocko's Modern Life and Invader Zim. 2 Nickelodeon properties, which once again, I guess if you wait long enough, maybe they'll eventually give it on Nickelodeon. Actually, maybe not the Rocko's Modern Life one because there was controversy about the Rocko's Modern Life one where Ralph Bighead, and if you remember, you know, Rocko had neighbors, the Bigheads, and they were always fighting, and then they had their son, Ralph Bighead. Now in the 20 years updated Rocko's Modern Life, the character is now a trans woman. And, you know, I'm trying to think of the word, transforms into a woman or whatever the case may be. But by the time they get there, you know, she's already a woman now. And now instead of being Ralph, it's Rachel. Little known fact, frogs, and these characters are frogs. Frogs can change their sex. I don't know if it's at will, but, you know, I guess through necessity can change sex. So it is a little clever. But then again, also, if you were a fan of Rocko's Modern Life, the cartoon, you know, Ralph was always a character never comfortable in his skin, always sort of like depressed and unhappy. And even though he was an animator, and it was sort of like a meta comment where he was an animator about a cartoon about crazy characters, but then, you know, Rocko's Modern Life was a cartoon about crazy characters. So he was sort of like this weird meta character. I don't know if he was supposed to represent the guy who created Rocko's Modern Life. Controversy aside, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a big fan of the Rocko's Modern Life Netflix movie. It's called Static Cling. I liked it. It was okay. It was passable. I think, and unfortunately, you know, like most things, a lot of it was spoiled in the trailer. You know, when it's goofing on, you know, droids and Starbucks and everyone getting the iPhone 8, iPhone 9, iPhone 10, you know, weird combinations of food, you know, where you go to Burger King nowadays and get a taco. And I remember when Burger King had the Whopperito, and, you know, weird combinations of food trucks. And it's nice that they're acknowledging like newer stuff, but it's more of like, hey, look at this. When the original Rocko's Modern Life was very subversive, and this felt more like a hey, look at this kind of deal. And you know what I'm saying? I wasn't exactly impressed with the new Rocko's Modern, and it breaks my heart because I love Rocko's Modern Life, and I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to be subversive. And then, some may say it's just a cheap gimmick by changing one of the characters from a guy to a girl. Even beyond that, I really didn't like it. And I hate to sound like, I'm not trying to be a neckbeard here. Then on the flip side, they also had the new, Invader Zim Enter the Florpus. It's like the show never ended, coincidentally enough, if you like, Invader Zim, you can watch it on Hulu. The funny thing is that the movie's on Netflix, but you can watch, and I've been rewatching old episodes of Invader Zim on Hulu. Of course, the first couple of minutes of Invader Zim, you could see where their production value does come in, where it is movie style. They ramp it up to fucking, ramp it up to 15, as out of 10 in the beginning, where you get the production and and it feels like a movie. But I'm saying is the rest of the episode, it feels like an episode of Invader Zim, where it's so fucking ridiculously heavy handed with like extreme, and violence isn't the right word, but just everything's to the extreme. And it kept I follow the creator, Jonan Vasquez, on Twitter, and, he's very proud of it. And it's, and of course, all these wonderful new, Invader Zim fans come out of the woodwork. But I applaud that one. I think that felt more like a continuation of Invader Zim, not as much as Rocko's Modern Life. Much more than Rocko's Modern Life, excuse me. Okay, getting ready for football season. Fuck football. A bunch of boring assholes like football. Okay, let me see what else. I will try to keep this, let's keep it light. Okay. Kirsten Dunst, and this is something, and I wish I kind of had the original episode. Kirsten Dunst is coming out with a new movie, and the one thing I've noticed about Kirsten Dunst is that, and I know her primarily from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and, she had always had a big head, and she had always had big boobs. And, when you see a girl that has a big head, or it's even, like, if you see a girl that has big boobs, and this is going to sound very, very fucking, chauvinistic and everything like that. But, like, when you see a skinny girl with big boobs, you're just waiting for her to eventually get fat. Saying you're waiting for her body to catch up to those boobs if she's naturally that way. And Kirsten Dunst also had a big head. And once again, look, I'm a fat guy, and when I lost a lot of weight, my head still looked gigantic. You can't lose weight in your head. So I think when you see people with big heads, I think that's Mother Nature's way of saying they're supposed to be fat. And Kirsten Dunst, back in the days of Spider-Man and stuff like that, I'm not even going to go, I'm not a big fan of Interview with the Vampire, which is how a lot of people initially got to know her, but I know her through the Spider-Man movies, where she had a big giant fucking head, and she had big boobs. So, now she's doing a movie that's coming out now, and her body is filled in. She's not fat. I wouldn't, that's not the right word. And I'm far be it for me to be the one to throw stones, but it looks like her body is caught up to her head and her boobs. Once again, I don't know what my plans are, but we are going to be celebrating we already celebrated the 33rd anniversary of the Transformers movie, the 1986 animated, quote unquote, the good one, in theaters. A local theater, as part of, they're having this thing called, Super City, which is sort of like the citywide Comic-Con thing they're having here in Rochester. And I really applaud their efforts. At a local theater, they're actually going to be giving Transformers the movie, on the big screen, which I never got a chance to see when I was a kid, because I was 9 years old when it came out, and I couldn't convince my parents, to take me to the movies. But when the VHS came out, the one thing I could say my dad did help me out with was that my dad was friends with the video store owner. So we used to get stuff, before it was available to the public. So, my dad did get me, for rental of Transformers the movie, of which I fell in love with, but also traumatized the shit out of me, because watching Optimus Prime die, at such a young, impressionable age, when to me Optimus Prime was everything, watching him die was super traumatic for, I wouldn't say 9, because I was 9 when the movie came out. The VHS probably came out about a year later. So watching a 10-year-old, being a 10-year-old, watching your favorite character die on TV, on your screen, was very traumatic. But the movie is awesome. I've had a bootleg copy of the VHS, a legitimate copy of the VHS, the Blu-ray, the DVD, the 20th anniversary version of the DVD. I've had the same movie 6 or 7 times, and I love it. I can recite the goddamn thing. So on the 24th in Rochester, they are going to have it in the theater. I would very much like to go see it. I got tickets, but then again, life happens, and I think I may not be able to go see it, so that's going to break my heart if I don't see it. But then the cool thing is, even after Transformers, it's like an homage to cartoons of the past. So they're giving episodes of Muppet Babies, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Thundercats, X-Men, Rugrats, Gargoyles, Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, and Kill la Kill. So it's going to be a good day. I think it's like from 8 o'clock in the morning to like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Let me see. What else do we have here? New Slipknot album so far. What I've heard from the new Slipknot album is pretty good. Peter Fonda died. I only know Peter Fonda from... was he in On Golden Pond? I think that was one of the first movies I ever saw as a kid. I know he was an Easy Rider as Captain America, but for fans of this show, they know him more from the first Ghost Rider movie, or the second Ghost Rider movie, where he plays the devil. So I think with that, we'll be back with more dick and fart jokes.
This episode of Two Strangers, One Podcast is brought to you by Comics Etc., 1115 East Main and North Goodman at the Hungerford Building, door number 8. Find out more information at comicsetc.biz or like them on Facebook at facebook.com/comicsetc1.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds?
Necrophilia.
It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, Prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was.
How
be a
did you
rough
watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
And we're back. Who would have thought, I know I do a lot of talking on these shows, and to think that I could probably do the first half an hour without a co-host. I don't know how interesting I am. This is not going to be a usual format, but I am just getting all this stuff off my chest. But, all right, so let's get into the nerdy news. Right before we were about to record last time, they had just announced I think it's with D23, the Disney event that they have every year, which is right around the corner. They announced that Ewan McGregor will be coming back to the Star Wars universe in a Star Wars, I don't know if it's a series or if it's a one-shot. I don't think they've gotten to that yet, but he will be returning as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, the beautiful thing is, it's been about 20 years. Well, no, it's 2006 or 2009 was the last movie, so it's been about 10 years since the end of the last movie. And, there is a long period in between when we see Obi-Wan Kenobi in Revenge of the Sith and then Obi-Wan Kenobi as an old man in A New Hope. So, Ewan McGregor has aged a little bit, which I think is good, so they don't have to give him kind of any extra makeup other than, his beard and so on and so forth. And of course, I think a lot of people will agree that of the prequels, of everything that had happened in the prequels, I don't think anybody has anything bad to say about Ewan McGregor. Obi-Wan was, he was believable. He was consistent. He was, somewhat connected to the character. And of course, there's a big jump because, between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, it's only been like about 30 years. And how Ewan McGregor goes from a guy in his maybe late 20s, early 30s to old ass Alec McGuinness. Okay, that's a little bit hard to believe, but we can be flexible, and I don't think there's not a single fan. I don't care how much you hate Star Wars. I don't think there's a single fan that did not like Ewan McGregor's portrayal of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, him coming back, it seems like such a natural play. Hopefully they backed up the Brinks truck, and, it is going to be weird because obviously in a series like that, yes, we do know how he eventually dies, or eventually becomes one with the Force. So, they can't really tease him dying or anything like that. But seeing that they're going to have a lot of leeway with the Mandalorian show, and I think that also takes place in between the movies. So, you can have a lot of fun, and there's a lot you can explore with Obi-Wan Kenobi and kind of expand on the universe. And it's going to be coming out with Disney Plus, and I'm super excited about that. And then once again, just discussing Disney Plus in general, they have announced a $13 bundle. And I could be wrong, but I believe it's $12.99 or $13.99. It's a bundle of Disney Plus, which, remember, all those shows that they had announced at San Diego Comic-Con, the Loki TV show, the Falcon and Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show, the What If TV show. These shows are going to be given budgets as if they were movies. These shows are having $50 million budgets because they're going to be 8-hour movies, and they're using the same people that were in the big giant blockbusters. So these TV shows are going to be the quality of the movies, or even if it's half the quality of the movie, since it's about half the budget. And then with the Mandalorian and the Star Wars stuff, and now with the Obi-Wan Kenobi, Disney Plus is going to be a force to be fucking reckoned with. Now, if that wasn't enough, if $13, $14 a month wasn't enough, they're bundling Hulu, because, Disney also owns a large chunk of Hulu, so they may even buy out, the other people. And look, I spend all day, I work all day, but, I can stream TV while I'm working, and I spend all day watching Hulu. And, you could spend, I think my money's better spent on Hulu than it is on Netflix. And then it's not my money because I'm using my boss's account. But that's neither here or there. That being said, you get Disney Plus, you get Hulu, and then you get ESPN Plus. Now, I can roll my eyes with the ESPN Plus because I'm not going to fucking use it. I could give absolutely two shits about ESPN. I wish, now this package, I believe, is going to be the package with ads. I think you have to pay another, $3 to $7 or whatever to get the package without ads. I don't have that because I'm using my boss's account, but I've been in Paul's house where, we've watched Hulu with ads. The cool thing, unless it's changed since the last time I watched it, it lets you know how many commercials are left. It's 4 commercials. It's usually about 4 commercials, 3 to 4. And it even lets you know how much time is left in that particular commercial. So, you have time to go take a piss, go get something from the kitchen, with the ads. So I'm not exactly complaining. Now, the ESPN Plus, I could give two shits about. You could keep the ESPN Plus. I had read this thing online and someone made a great suggestion, and I really wish this was an option. Now, on the DC app, there is the DC Universe app where you could watch, the shows like Titans and Swamp Thing and Doom Patrol and all, and old episodes of Batman the Animated Series. There's also, with the same app, you can also read comics, and I don't know if it's the entire DC catalog, but, it's enough where you can sit there, and I think if you have a tablet or even on your phone, you can sit there and read comics on your device. Now, I wish, and I I think would be a better value, at least for my dollar, was get rid of ESPN Plus, and since Disney owns Marvel, maybe have once again an option where you could read Marvel comics, or even, and let me tell you, they could even let's just say, we got when the time comes for the Shang-Chi movie to come out, then they'll have, a whole bunch of issues of the Shang-Chi character, or Falcon and Winter Soldier. Then, there'll be a special on, so you could read comics that sort of, are related to the movies and the TV shows that are about to come out. It doesn't have to be the whole Marvel catalog. I know, don't get me wrong, it'd be great, but if you have Comixology or any of those other apps or whatever, and I think Marvel has their own app, But, it would be a great option where, it doesn't have to be the full catalog, but, enough where, if I'm out and about and I'm sitting on the bus or whatever and I have my tablet and I have a Disney Plus account, I could read Marvel Comics. I mean, it makes sense. What the fuck? Who gives a shit? I mean, I think if you're into fucking Disney and Marvel and all that Star Wars, do you really give a shit about sports? But then again, that's just me and my biased opinion, but I could give two shits about ESPN. When I worked in Radio Shack, they had ESPN all day, and it was the same the same sports stories over and over and over again, like if you're watching a news network. All right, went to the drive-in, took my daughter to the drive-in, saw Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which was yawnably bad. Yawn. It was such a, I don't say it was bad. I mean, I know it's supposed to be for kids, but even for kids, it was kind of a boring movie. It had started to rain. When we go to the drive-in, we kind of have like our folding chairs and a little folding table and like a radio. So I don't have to kill the batteries on my car because they transmit the audio for the drive-in over the radio. So you could sit in your car with your car turned on, with your car on, maybe not the engine running. But we sit out at the table and we have the radio going, and then it started to rain. By the time we got in the car, my daughter fell asleep. Like if this movie was any good, she'd be awake. It was a double feature, and then they had shown Crawl. And that's the story about the house that's under, there's like a levee break sort of Katrina situation, and the house gets filled with water. And then like in the basement or in the first level of the house, there's a giant alligator. I and my daughter had both just fallen asleep. We were both asleep in the car. We had the seats reclined, and neither one of us gave a shit. And like the movie just like bothered me. Like it would be loud and wake me up. Now that being said, after waking up at the end of Crawl, because I totally did not watch Crawl at all. I literally slept through that movie. I had snuck into the other drive-in screen and saw Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And oh my God, I think like there was an editor that was working with Quentin Tarantino for a while, and they think they passed away before, like Inglourious Bastards or something like that. They need to fire whoever his editor is now, because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the Seinfeld of Quentin Tarantino movies. It's a movie about nothing. Now, mind you, with Crawl and Scary Things to See in the Dark, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, both those movies started at the same time of whatever movie played before, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So I was able to sit and I watched about 2 hours worth of, I think it's like a 3-hour movie. And I had watched about 2 hours worth of that movie. And I would say maybe 45 minutes of action happened during those 2 hours. A lot of scenes. Like, there's a scene with Margot Robbie as Shannon Tate. She goes to a movie theater and watches her own movie. So you're watching a movie of an actor watching a movie, almost in fucking real time. And once again, this is another complaint a lot of people had. There's a lot of driving scenes in Los Angeles, and they're listening to the radio. And I guess for people who live out there, it's authentic old radio from those days playing on the radio as they drive across the highways. And nothing happens. It's people sitting in a car having inane conversations. And don't get me wrong, Quentin Tarantino is known for having inane conversations in his movies and pop culture conversations. But I mean, really damn near nothing happening other than we have the time, power, and money to get all these cars on the highway, these old, 60s cars or whatever, and it's 1969. Let's film a scene of cars driving down the highway because we can. And then there's a part where, Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are watching TV, and they're watching like TV shows that like Leonardo DiCaprio was in, but like the camera is literally focused on the television screen with them talking in the background. It felt like I was watching Beavis and Butthead. Then the last 10 minutes, it gets ultra violent, and then the movie's over. The last 10 minutes are very Quentin Tarantino. And I think like it's sort of like he's apologizing. I'm sorry I wasted 2 hours and 50 minutes of your time. I'm going to give you the last 10 minutes of ridiculous over the top action and revisionist history, because it's like Inglourious Bastards where it rewrites history. And when the movie ended, like I was sort of like, that's it? This is how the fucking movie's going to end? So, I know he's an auteur and he's a talented man and he has the money and power to do whatever the fuck he wants. But I think someone should have talked him into, or at least his editor should have said, look, Quentin, we got way too much in this fucking movie. Let's cut it down to a tight hour and 20, because a lot of nothing happened in that movie. Beautifully shot nothing. wonderfully acted nothing, but nothing nonetheless. For fans of Regal Theaters, listen, this is not a paid, but they're doing a $18 a month Movie Pass, Regal's version of Movie Pass, and I wanted to ask Paul. We didn't even get to it the last episode, but that is a thing coming out. So if you like going to the movies and you happen to have a Regal theater, because there's a lot of Regals here in Rochester, they do have the $18 a month. I mean, I've seen a lot of people get burned by the Movie Pass because it's like, oh, you can only use it on this day, and you can't be a movie that like just came out, and so I mean, $18 a month. Do I really go to the movies that much? I sneak into more movies than that. So, I don't know, but it's nice to know that it's there and it's available. So if they're around a Regal theater, Andy Serkis, best known for playing, Gollum in Lord of the Rings and Caesar in the Planet of the Apes, the new Planet of the Apes movies. What other? He was Claw in Black Panther. He is going to be directing Venom 2, which I think is a very interesting choice. I'm wondering if there's going to be a lot of motion capture in that movie because, Venom was okay. Actually, I didn't like it, I'll be honest with you. But a lot of people liked Venom, and I'm wondering if maybe, with him being in the movie, like maybe he'll be performing too. Oh, he also played Snoke in, Grand Commander Snoke in the new Star Wars movies. So I'm wondering if, is there going to be a lot of motion capture? Let Tom Hardy still be the human character, but I wonder if Andy Serkis is going to be mocapping Venom, which, the guy's a fucking genius, and he brings incredible characters to life, and I would love to see what he does with Venom. And I'm hoping this is sort of like a X-Men 2, Sam Raimi, Spider-Man 2, Godfather 2 situation where the second movie is better than the first. Where the sequel, which sadly means the third one is probably going to be even better than that. But, the third one's probably going to suck. If it follows that trajectory. But I am really excited to see what Andy Serkis is planning for Venom, especially with his history with motion capture, which I don't think he did motion capture for any of I think he did a version of Mowgli or the Jungle Book or whatever that was on Netflix. But I trust him. I trust Andy Serkis to give us a fucking good kick-ass Venom movie. And then obviously, they had introduced Carnage in the end of Venom. Spoiler alert. That was the after credits teaser. And even right now, Marvel Comics is giving Carnage a big push. There's a book series out right now called Absolute Carnage. So I think they're gearing us up. They're getting Carnage into the zeitgeist. And, Carnage is basically Venom, even more crazy. Well, I guess, in a movie where if you're going to have Venom as the good guy, Carnage could be the bad guy because, originally they're both bad guys. But, where Venom is crazy and will eat people's fucking heads, Carnage will just, eat a room full of heads of, a whole room full of people. He'll go to a heavy metal concert and kill everybody in the fucking audience. So I am interested to see Andy Serkis tackle Carnage, who will be played by, what's his face? Woody Harrelson. And it'll be fun. It's going to be fun to watch Woody Harrelson turn into a complete fucking psycho. He's done it before. So, he was, Mickey and Mallory, Natural Born Killers. So, imagine Mickey and Mallory meets, Lord of the Rings meets Venom. And then, of course, if they want, they could put Tom Holland in there, even if it's, a little Spider-Man cameo, which would be wonderful. They don't have to do it, but it would be nice to see Tom Holland in the tights again. Okay. Here's real big news. And we had discussed this last episode about the DC crossover Crisis on Infinite Earths thing that is going to be released pretty much in December and January, end of this year, beginning of next year, on all the, the Flash and Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl and even Black Lightning. They're going to have the crossover, and they'd already announced Linda Carter as Wonder Woman, Burt Ward as Robin, an older Robin. Brandon Routh as Superman, but the Kingdom Come version of Superman. They've announced Kevin Conroy, the voice from Batman the Animated Series, to play old man Bruce Wayne. And they keep saying Bruce Wayne. I don't think we're not going to see anybody in the Batman Beyond outfit. And seeing how these shows love to avoid talking about Batman, they may not even mention Batman. Like they'll be Robin and then, and even old man Bruce Wayne, but they're not going to say Batman. Now I'm hoping that, maybe in the background we'll see the old, the Bruce Wayne Batman Beyond suit. Doesn't have to be the Terry McGinnis one. I'm hoping we at least see the suit in the background, but we're going to see old man Bruce Wayne. Once again, they did not say Batman. They just said Bruce Wayne, Kevin Conroy, and he's got the voice. And look, I love Kevin Conroy, but he's getting up there in age, so he's going to play old man Bruce Wayne. I think it fits him like a glove. I mean, he played the voice in the actual animated series, so I'm super excited about that. And then with New York Comic Con coming in October, for the past 2 years, I've interviewed Kevin Conroy, and I'm hoping I'll have a chance to interview him this year. And of course, I'm going to ask him about that, even though they may not want me to. I'm going to try to sneak a question in there about the Crisis on Infinite Earths. I've been watching Glow season 3 on Netflix. Really fucking good. I mean, if you're a fan of the series, this season 3 has been pretty good. I'm about 75% way through it. If you like Alison Brie, and if you like to see her boobies, and according to my friend, he says that she has shown her boobies in the earlier seasons. For some reason, I don't remember that. Or if you're a fan of Community, you get to see Alison Brie's boobs on episode 3 of Glow, season 3, episode 3. And then there's another character who I'm in love with, Melrose. I like Sheila also, the wolf girl, but I like Melrose. And you get to see Melrose boobies in the episode also. And of course, it's TV and they're going to be as flattering as possible, but both their titties look very, very, very nice. I had Googled it, and I guess Alison Brie likes showing her tits, but more like pictures that she's taken personally. But if you know the websites to go to, you can see them. But if you want to see them, without turning into a total skeeve, you can see them on, Glow season 3, episode 3. Fans of the show will know Austin, one of the former temporary co-hosts. Him and I got tickets to go see Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and Jay and Silent Bob Reboot in the same night. They're having Fathom events. I think Kevin Smith is going across the country, and if you don't go to the Fathom events one, it's sort of like, they'll come to town and they'll premiere the movie on a Friday. Hypothetically, they'll on a Friday in Chicago, and then that weekend it'll be playing in Chicago. So you could go to their show, or you go to local theaters that are sort of supporting. So it's not going to be a full blown release, except for those nights of the Fathom events. So there's one night, I believe October 15th, where it's just Reboot. And then October 17th, it's going to be Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Both Austin and I are big Kevin Smith fans. And I think it's going to be an awesome night. And, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is one of those movies that I can watch over and over and over again. And I can quote, and, I've seen it a million times. I did see that in theaters, unlike Transformers. But I'm super excited. And then Reboot looks good also. So, and then I think Jason Mewes had put out another movie called The Method and the Madness. But the movie's so old, Stan Lee's still alive in it and Kevin Smith is still fat. So, if you're jonesing for more of that, I'm gonna probably get it. I think it comes out on demand also. But if you haven't heard of it yet, and you should have, there's a movie called Madness and the Method, directed by Jason Mewes, and it's a weird meta story because it's about Jason Mewes not wanting to be Jason Mewes, in a weird indie movie sort of way. So check that out. I had been watching, and once again, I'm at work. When I'm at work and I'm watching TV, I've been watching a lot of Netflix shows, and my Hulu for a while was down for a minute, so I was sort of I don't want to say forced to watch Netflix, but I sort of gave Netflix a little bit more attention, and there's some good shows on it. And once again, I'm not getting paid for this. It's just stuff I want to say. Aziz Ansari's Master of None has cracked me up a lot. Tiffany Haddish has a comedy, stand-up comedy showcase where a bunch of her friends perform. It's called They Ready, and there's 7 episodes. 5 of them are really, really good. There's a Hassan Minhaj, I think his name is, the show called Patriot Act. That's pretty good. It's very much, it's Last Sunday Tonight, the John Oliver show, but it kind of, the Patriot Act really kind of targets like millennials and stuff like that, or at least all the references and stuff like that. It targets millennials in the way the guy speaks to the audience. So if you like Last Week Tonight with John Oliver on HBO, you'll probably like Patriot Act. And Orange is the New Black season 7. As much as I love Glow, Orange is the New Black season 7 came out. I've loved Orange is the New Black. It was shown to me. I was a late adopter, but I love the show. Like I said, parts of the later seasons were actually filmed in the prison that I worked at, which is very kind of weird. This last season, not the greatest, but at least they knew it was going to be the last season. And that's probably the only show right now that's gone the furthest on a streaming platform at 7 seasons. So, at least they had the season to tie up a lot of loose ends. Some things are left, still open. But it was enough where they said, okay, let's say goodbye to these girls. We're not going to keep beating a dead horse. And, they tied up a lot of loose ends. And so I did like the last episode. I did like the way they kind of tied up everything. Like I said, the season itself kind of had its highs and lows. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't their best season. But if you like Orange is the New Black, obviously you probably have seen it by now, but, you could check it out. A friend of mine hit me to Barry season 1, which I got a chance to. It was Barry season 1 and season 2. Season 1 of Barry is a lot better than season 2. Season 2 kind of meanders a bit, but season 1 is definitely worth watching. And in the vein of TV shows that I'm in love with, there was if you were alive during the 90s and you were watching Fox TV, there was a show called Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And it wasn't the most famous show in the world. And, it was one of those shows, I think it came on even before The Simpsons. It wasn't even a show that you saw after 8. It was like a 7:30 or 7 o'clock show. And, Parker Lewis Can't Lose, I was a big fan of that show. And, so I follow the star of the show, Corin Nemec, went on Twitter and he said that the creators of the show had actually met with quote unquote executives, discussing a reboot or update or whatever the case may be. Unfortunately, the executives did not like it. They kind of rejected it. And and unfortunately for Corin Nemec, he took it kind of hard and he was off Twitter for a couple of days. And it's one of those things. That show made him who he is. I loved Parker Lewis Can't Lose. There's 3 shows. If I had the money, I'd bring back Parker Lewis Can't Lose, The Adventures of Pete and Pete, and Megas XLR. And there's something about a show the show is very surreal. And it's very takes reality and flips it on his head. And, there was a character on Parker Lewis called Jerry, the sort of the nerdy sidekick, and he wore a trench coat. And once again, this is in the mid 90s or early 90s, way before Trenchcoat Mafia. But, he used to wear a black trench coat where he had everything that you ever needed was in his trench coat. And I think, this might even have predated Jay and Silent Bob or whatever, where they do kind of gag with Silent Bob having anything that you need in his trench coat or whatever. But there was one time they needed a fax machine. Once again, show you how 90s it is. And he puts the paper in his fucking jacket and there's a fax machine in his jacket. Shit like that where it's so fucking surreal and so weird. I love that show. There's so much. Season 2 is on Crackle, the Sony app that no one ever watches. And I could see kind of why the show got canceled, because season 2, the quality does dip, which is weird because you don't see season 1. But season 1 of Parker Lewis Can't Lose is absolutely wonderful. And if you're a fan of Mila Jovovich, it's young Mila Jovovich just getting her big start. And it's a show that I wish would come back, and I enjoy visiting. Like I said, I watched season 2, and I guess maybe it's one of those deals where you kind of remember it with rose-colored glasses, because season 2, although okay, wasn't as great as season 1. And I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about was the band Tool. They've been out they're releasing a new album later on this year. I had known someone who was a fan of the band Tool, who kind of had a substance abuse problem, and she had always said, we would listen to Tool music, and she would always say, oh, you know what this song's about, right? You know what this song's about, right? Meaning, because Tool has a lot of songs about drugs. So that was sort of our running joke together, was basically, you know what this song's about, right? So they're putting out a new album, and they put out a new logo for the band Tool, where it has this weird shape. And I guess fans were looking at it, and then someone figured out if you take the shape and you flip it lengthwise or whatever, like you fold it in half horizontally. The two halves cover each other and almost resembles a needle. And the album's going to be called Fear Inoculum. So, where even there are songs about drugs, now even the new logo is somewhat related to drugs, with it looking like a weird, old school syringe. So I just thought that was unique. And I can't believe it. I've been talking for over an hour now. I exhausted all my topics. When me and Paul did our original episode, it was about 2 hours. And, there was a lot of political talk in the beginning. So I hope maybe we saved you from that. I did a little teeny tiny bit of political talk, but, I don't know if I really like this method because my throat is sore already for talking for an hour straight. And I took a break during the commercial break to drink some water. And it feels weird me just talking to nobody. But I did kind of enjoy this. And, let's wrap it up. That's what she said. Please visit twostrangersonepodcast.net, where you can find all things show related. You can find links to our iTunes page. If you have an iPhone, an iPad, or an iPod, you can find us there. Subscribe to us on iTunes. If you don't have an iPhone, an iPad, or iPod, you can find us on the Stitcher app. That's STITCHER, the Stitcher app for Android devices. Like what I do is, I listen later. I put on listen later and available offline. So you can download all the episodes while you're in a Wi-Fi spot. And then when you're out and about, you can listen to your podcast without killing your battery or killing your data. And then, of course, our original hosting site before Stitcher and before iTunes, you can download us directly at our hosting site at SoundCloud. SoundCloud, just search for Two Strangers, One Podcast. The episodes, and I'm sorry, excuse me as I adjust my desk. The episodes that you can find go back about 2 or 3 years. And if you want to find episodes before that, because we're 7.5, damn near 8 years worth of podcasts, you could find the other episodes that aren't available on SoundCloud. You can find on YouTube. Just go on YouTube and search for Two Strangers, One Podcast. And on our YouTube, you can find that video I mentioned earlier with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. But it's called Arnold and Sly Say Something. You can find my audiobook, Odd I See a Tale from the Road. You can find, I believe, 2 albums worth of music that I put out. I do digital music under my electronic music name is XLNYC, which is like my Twitter handle. I've been known by that name for fucking 20, 30 years now. And of course, every episode of Two Strangers One Podcast up until we moved over to SoundCloud, you can find on YouTube. Just search for that and you can find my Stranger Vlogs. I did about 30 of them. I have another one that I recorded months ago and I never uploaded. You can find my Stranger Vlogs. So, tons of stuff you can find on YouTube. We want your money. We need your money. But if you can't give us a dime, it takes 2 seconds to share and like us on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/twostrangersonepodcast. Share and like us with your friends. Share and like this particular episode. Share and like the page. We do have a group, Two Strangers One Podcast Network, where you can share that or join that group. And once again, the original website is twostrangersonepodcast.net. There you can find links to buy my book, Odd I See a Tale from the Road. All this stuff. Oh my God. I got all this shit, people. Buy my book, listen to my music, listen to my podcast, listen to my vlogs. Everything is linked to twostrangersonepodcast.net. And if you want to write us, like Oscar used to, but I think I kind of hurt his feelings after I had played him singing Madonna's Borderline. I think I hurt his feelings, but he hasn't written since. He had written after that episode saying that, like, I really didn't zing him, and he hasn't written since, but he used to write us all the time. But if you want to write us like Oscar used to, you can reach us at twostrangersonepodcast@gmail.com, all spelled out, twostrangersonepodcast@gmail.com. And that's it. We certainly hope you guys enjoyed listening and had as much fun as I did recording. I apologize for this episode not being the usual quality because I thought I had everything set up and things got messed up and we lost 2 hours worth of episode, but I gave you an hour back. We certainly hope you guys enjoyed listening, had as much fun as I did recording. Thank you for listening to Two Strangers One Podcast. I'm Chris. Peace. We're out. Bye. You should be fapping.
All right, here we go, man. Go ahead. You want to read
Double Jackpot.
What is it?
It is a self-published book by Christopher Cologne.
Chris Cologne? Smells good to me.
But
Look at her. That broke that fucking cold little exterior. He's like, hee.
But it is spelled COLON.
Him punny.
But Double Jackpot is a book about a comic book artist, Eric, who is in a loveless relationship with a materialistic
I feel you, Eric.
Lynette.
Oh, fucking. Are you sure I didn't write this? Sounds hauntingly familiar.
He starts cheating on his girlfriend with a more creatively supportive woman, Nadia.
Well, I gotta meet her. Where's the Nadia?
There's your summer girlfriend.
Summer Nadia is Nadia.
Nadia?
Yeah, I think Nadia is spelled with an A.
All right.
Both Lynette and Nadia play the double jackpot, the largest payout in lotto history, much like the recent Powerball. Both girls play his birth date as the winning numbers. Eric is now stuck between two of the country's richest women. Who will he choose? It's not that simple. This is a clever fucking idea,
Yeah, it
man.
is.
Look at her, fucking. She's impressed.
I am.
She got some summer reading. Christopher Cologne smells real lovely with an original idea. This is. I've never heard this before.
I haven't either. This is a self-published book, much in the indie spirit as Kev's Clerks.
Oh, you don't even need to name check me. This is just a good idea. You could stand on your own, man. You don't even have to be like, hey, remember Clerks? This is nothing like that. This is way more original than Clerks. This is a good idea, man. Why didn't I think of this?
I need something to read. This book is part of the Comic Books, Heavy Metal, Video Games Trilogy Book 2. Odd I See, A Tale from the Road, coming soon.
Right on, man. It's part of a trilogy. This is the first part.
Way to write, man.
He's seeking a literary agent. Motherfuckers, anybody out there? There ain't no literary agents listening to this show, I assure you, sure. Sure. I assure you, sure. But somebody know a literary agent? Hook a motherfucker up! Chris Cologne come up with an original idea. I should tell Raskin. That's a good fucking idea, to be honest with you. That's a fucking rom-com right there. Megan, get Raskin on the phone. Isn't it possible to get Raskin on the phone? No?
Yeah.
I want to run it past him, man. I want to, and if it happens, I get a taste, Chris Cologne. I get a whiff, if you will.
The book could also be ordered on www.lulu.com.
That's lulu.com.
I understand that. I just want to spell it out.
Normally one says it, that spells it. Still, lulu.com. What is that? Do you know what it is?
I don't know. All right. The book could also be ordered on www.lulu.com. Search for Double Jackpot Christopher Cologne. A paperback version of the book is $15 and a PDF file is only $5.
$5 is
Yeah.
insanely inexpensive. 15's not even that bad for a paperback version.
No.
This is $1 million idea right here. Like a movie about a dude who fucking is stuck between two chicks, both of who play his birthday and win the lottery. Come on! I can see that trailer. Chris Cologne is on to something. Nobody else can smell it but me.
I'll read it.
Thank you. I'm going to make that smelly joke.
I know. You're trying to get me to laugh again.
It worked once. Double Jackpot is a self-published book by Chris Cologne, man. It's the first book in his comic books, heavy metal, video games trilogy. Book 2, Odd I See, A Tale from the Road, should be coming out soon. Get all the information at Chris Cologne, like a motherfucker.
I
and
will
his
totally
book,
read this.
Double Jackpot. I'm serious. I'm going to recommend that to fucking Raskin. How is that not a movie? You know what I'm saying? This could be a sexy movie. You could do an R-rated version. There could be nudie in it, and you could show them fucking both chicks. Maybe a little penetration. Maybe a butthole shot. No butthole, no care.
I would like to formally apologize to Christopher Cologne right
No,
now.
sex sells. Chris Cologne will appreciate that. He's like, thanks for throwing a few buttholes in there, man.
Don't forget to check out twostrangersonepodcast.net, your one-stop resource for everything show-related. You can find links to subscribe to us on iTunes or on Stitcher. You could also find links to buy my book, Double Jackpot, on twostrangersonepodcast.net.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.